Happy 4th of July. This is Eric from Alabama.
And I'm Gerry in Boston, Massachusetts. We want to welcome our listeners from the United States and around the world. It's another Sunday podcast. And happy 4th of July to you, my friend.
And to you.
And to our listeners in the United States that celebrate the 4th of July.
Yes. Can you believe that we're already more than halfway through this year? I mean, did it not just feel like the year just started?
No, especially the year that we've had, it's incredible how quickly here we are on the 4th of July.
Yeah.
Wow. Can you believe we are 30-something episodes into our podcast? And it seems
now
like
that I can believe.
It seems like we just started, doesn't it? What a great run this has been so far. Looking forward to 30-something more. Well, this is one of our themed episodes. Of course, it is the 4th of July here in the United States, and unlike previous 4th of Julys pre-pandemic, here in the Boston area, a little bit different this year, 2021. Hopefully, getting back to the normal 4th of July celebrations in 2022. But at least there's a little more going on this year than there was last year when absolutely nothing happened. But you've never been up here, obviously, for the 4th of July. I think you came up just after or just before when you visited. But have you ever seen the 4th of July celebration on the television from Boston?
I have not.
If you've ever get the opportunity to come up here during the 4th of July, it's an incredible celebration. The Boston Pops play at the Hatch Shell on the Esplanade. And what they do is they close down a lot of the roads, and there's a big open area, and I think I pointed this out. It's along the Charles River, and I think I pointed out the Hatch Shell and the area where people come and lay their blankets down and watch the Boston Pop perform with whoever the celebrities that they invite that year, and then the huge fireworks display that is synchronized to the music. It's an incredible celebration here. It's called Pops Go the 4th. Of course, the Boston Pops. And I want to say 500,000 people. And I may be exaggerating that or underestimating it. People can Google the crowds. But when they open the gates to this park area at like 5:30 or 6 in the morning, and mind you, the concert doesn't start till 8 o'clock at night. People rush to try to get the closest, they can to the stage, and then it just goes back for miles and miles of just people along the banks of the Charles River. And they bring their games and their pillows and little cooler. In fact, they stopped allowing coolers. I'm not even sure if you can bring water, but I think there was no coolers. At one time, you could just bring your whole picnic thing. And there's little plots of land, and they just have a great time, and it runs till like midnight, and it's aired, I think, it used to be aired on one of the cable channels, and I can't recall which one, but it's put on by this multimillionaire from Boston who puts on this show every single year for I forget how many years now. This goes back to Arthur Fiedler and the Boston Pop, and that goes back to when I was a kid. But every 4th of July, with the exception of 2020 and now 2021, they have this big celebration. This year, the Pops are performing to a crowd. I think they said about 9,000 people out at Tanglewood out in the western part of Massachusetts, which is an absolutely beautiful venue. James Taylor plays Tanglewood a lot. It's an outdoor music venue. And this year they're going to do 9,000 people that can listen to the Boston Pops. And I believe the fireworks are going to be on Boston Common. So slowly making a comeback. But quite an event in Boston. I have been to a couple of the celebrations. I've never gone to the actual park because I just never had any interest of being in, standing at a gate at 4 in the morning or whatever time people start lining up to rush to an area of grass and sit there for 16 hours before the show starts. But others do. But here in my town, we have a very large parade. At one point, it was the largest parade in Massachusetts. And everything from fire engines to clowns and politicians, of course, especially in an election year, it's mostly politicians. Many, many years ago, John F. Kennedy marched in this parade. And Ted Kennedy used to march every year in the parade. Marching bands from all over the country and the world. We've had some bands from Ireland who have performed in our 4th of July celebration. And this is put on by a group known as the West Side Social Club. They held it for years, and they did every 4th of July in the morning. They would have kids events. They'd have doll carriage parade, bicycle competition, pet parades and pet competitions and fishing competitions on the lake and all sorts of things like that. You'd have the big parade in the afternoon. You'd have a live concert on the Common with a bandstand. And then at 9:30 at night, you'd have a fireworks display over the lake. It just was tradition here in town for many, many, many years. And when it was given up by the folks that ran the parade, a high school student stepped up and said, "Hey, I want to do this." And with the help of the previous organizers and a bunch of volunteers, they put together probably the best 4th of July parade in many, many years in town. So we did not have one in 2020. We're not having one in 2021. Even though everything here in Massachusetts has reopened and there's no restrictions, it just takes so long. About a year's worth of planning. In fact, I was told that they do the parade on the 4th of July, they sleep on the 5th of July, and on the 6th of July they begin to plan for the following year. So it's quite an undertaking. But that's what happens here in the Northeast. You have a different type of 4th of July celebration. Tell the listeners about that.
Yeah, well, in my hometown before, we have something called Liberty Day, and that happens, I think it's the Saturday before 4th of July or a couple Saturdays before 4th of July. And we have a parade in our little hometown. And it's, yeah, they have a lot of street vendors and it's a kind of a community deal. Like I said, a lot of street vendors. You can walk around. They have some live music on Main Street there. And that's always one of the things that is leading up to the 4th of July. But the biggest thing is at the American Village in Montevallo, Alabama. And, we've talked about on the podcast me doing the Revolutionary War reenactment, which is kind of weird, since Alabama was just the frontier at that point. The American Village, for those who don't know about it, basically built these buildings that are replicas of things like in Williamsburg. They have a scaled down replica of Mount Vernon, of the courthouse. They're doing a replica of Philadelphia Hall, where the Declaration of Independence was signed. I think that one's going to be full sized. I could be wrong about that, but I saw there's one wing of it built last time I was there for Memorial Day. And that thing, I think it's full size because that's going to be a huge building. But they they always they're to my knowledge at this point they're not going to have a 4th of July celebration. Probably because, like you said, it's so big that it takes a year to plan. I'm sure, the 4th of July was always, ever since they opened I think they opened in 2001, the American Village did. I think we went out for the 4th of July celebration. And shortly after that, my dad got involved in the reenactment stuff there. And which is how I got involved in that and interested into that time period. When I was in middle school, every year since then, since I started doing that, I was out there for the 4th of July. And it's become kind of a tradition, family tradition to go out there every year, and participate in the reenactment. And they have it's a whole day. I think it starts at like 9 in the morning, but they have, we would always do the military side of it, the Continental Soldier, um, the American Army during the Revolution, and we would have an encampment with tents set up. We would do musket demonstrations. We would fire. They had a full size 6-pounder cannon that we would fire off blanks, obviously, but we would fire that thing off. We would kind of demonstrate what it was like to be a soldier during the American Revolution. But they had other things going on, and I was always participating in the military, the reenactment stuff, and I didn't get to see a lot of the other stuff that went on. But if my memory serves me correctly, they had um, all kinds of stuff. They would read the Declaration of Independence. Um, I know they had a lot of interpreters. They had a guy that portrayed George Washington. They had a guy that portrayed Patrick Henry, and he would give the "Give Me Liberty" or "Give Me Death" speech. Did a great job doing that. Uh, and it's out in the middle of a field in Montevallo. I mean, it's just like you're driving down the road, and boom, there it is. A bunch of colonial era buildings. Um, but it just a great thing, and I mean, tons of people would come out. It was the biggest thing ever. And then at night, they would they would have orchestra come up. They had a big stage set up, and they would have some vendors, some food, barbecue places would come with their food trucks and stuff, um, but and they had all these seats set up. They have a big common area, like a green, within the middle of the village, and but then they would do the orchestra would play, and then the orchestra would play to the fireworks, and it was a great fireworks display. I mean, awesome. And we would always start it off with the cannon. I remember doing that as a kid. We would load the cannon, and we were always waiting for the cue. And the cannon, the orchestra would stop for a second, the cannon would go off, and then boom, the fireworks start up. And that was always a cool thing. So and being out there in that field, when you set that cannon off, it reverberates off of the hills. And you can hear, it goes off, but then you hear in the distance, boom, 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 as it's reverberating off the hills or whatever. It's super cool. But anyway, but yes, that has been our tradition for years now, is to go to the American Village. So, and I missed a couple years in there when I was busy. I think I may have had drill, or one year I was in Afghanistan or getting ready to go to Afghanistan, so I wasn't able to make it. Um, but no, it's a great way to celebrate the 4th of July and kind of go back to that time period of Independence Day. When the Declaration of Independence was signed on July 4th, 1776. And I could be totally wrong about that, or totally wrong about this, but I remember reading in a book that uh, the the 4th of July has always been celebrated with like cannons and fireworks and all that stuff. Like that's even going back to the Revolutionary War period. I think I can't remember who it was, but they kind of, when they were celebrating Independence Day, even during the American Revolution, they would like line all these cannons up and shoot them off, and so it's always been about fireworks and cannons and stuff like that, which is awesome. Uh, but no, the American Village, they, that was our family tradition, was to participate that in the reenactment, at least for me and my dad. Um, and that it was just a good way to kind of celebrate Independence Day and wrap your head too about what it was and what it is, to this day. So
So, did you do anything at the family, like a barbecue or anything like that, or was it just the American Village?
well, when I was a little kid, uh, we used to go to Pennsylvania for the summer and visit my grandfather, and we would oftentimes be up there for the 4th of July. And we would celebrate the 4th of July up there. But when the American Village opened, me and my dad, we got involved in the reenactment part there. And so after that, we basically just did the reenactment at the American Village. So rather than enjoy the 4th of July, like most Americans do, we would go work our butts off. But it was a good
You
experience.
were performing for people who were enjoying the Fourth of July, so you were the reason why they.
Yes.
Yeah, that's not a great. That's a great story, great tradition. In our family, we would have a Fourth of July cookout for family, friends, neighbors, anybody that would come. And I can remember in 1976, the celebration of the 200th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, we probably had the largest group of people. It was a huge celebration in town. We had a live band. I have cousins that play bluegrass and country in the backyard, all plugged into amplifiers. They had the fiddles and there all of that, all the mandolin and all of the things that go into a bluegrass band. Across the street from us, there was another live band that was playing whatever music they were playing, and they were crossing back and forth between the barbecues. And I can remember my dad, and I can remember him taking a 55-gallon drum, like an oil drum, cutting it in half, cleaning it, galvanizing, whatever the heck he did with it. And that became the grill. Fill it with charcoal. This is before the days of gas grills. Fill it with charcoal, light the sucker up, and he provided all of the food and all of the soft drinks for the party. People brought stuff, of course. They brought their own food and they brought desserts and things like that. And if they wanted to drink, they could bring their own alcohol. And everybody would gather at the house around 11 or 12 in the morning. The parade, I think, at that time was 1 o'clock in the afternoon, so we'd all go down. The parade literally went by the bottom of the street. We'd all go down. We'd take our lounge chairs and little director chair things and line them up on the street and watch the parade go by, and then everybody would come back to the house, and the party was just go on and on. I don't recall how many people, but my brother and I, this particular year, got a piece of but not cardboard, but some sort of like a poster paper. And we had people sign in, just sign their name. And there were hundreds of people. In fact, the police showed up and we said, oh, God, we're in trouble. And they came in. My father said, hey, have a cheeseburger, have a hot dog, have a beer, soda or whatever. And I said, did you get a complaint? No, we just were walking by doing a patrol and wanted to see what was going on. Nobody complained because everybody that would have complained was at the party. And,
Right.
and I have a very small backyard. It's not a huge backyard, and they just crammed so many people into the backyard. And then of course we'd all go down at 9:30, line up along the lake and on the common area, and watch the fireworks. And that was, I think, the last barbecue that we had. It was in 1976. There may have been one more after that, but there wasn't. nothing like the 1976 barbecue. It was the biggest thing ever that we had ever had. And I mean, strangers, just people walking by, and people, hey, go in and get a burger. I mean, there's just food, and it was crazy. And that's a fond memory of 4th of July. And then I did take a trip one time down to Washington, D.C. on the 4th of July as part of my bucket list. And I always wanted to do New York City on Times Square New Year's Eve, and I wanted to do Washington, D.C. on the 4th of July. And let me tell you, what an event that is to be there live for it. We had gone down on the 3rd of July. A friend of mine and I took a train down and did all of the Smithsonian Institution museums that we could get in, cram into one day, and then the next day, and then we made it out to the monument, the area of the monument, National Mall, and we got lucky because to get onto the National Mall grounds, you had to go through security, and there was just thousands and thousands of people, and you've probably seen this on TV as well. And then, of course, the Washington Monument in the background and the fireworks. If you're familiar with the Washington Mall, it's in segments, and there are roads that separate the segments. We were on the edge of a road up against a merchant tent that was selling goods on the other side. We did not have to go through security. We weren't in a crowd. We were just the two of us and maybe a couple other people just in perfect line with the Washington Monument and saw the fireworks display. And the last big finale of the fireworks, as soon as that sucker ended, we were out of there. And we made it back to the hotel just before that wave of this million people came through the streets. But what an event they do down there. And I thought our fireworks here in Boston were incredible, and they are. But Washington, D.C., there's nothing like it. I forget the band who played. I want to say it was Barry Manilow that particular year, but I'm not sure. There could have been several different performances. We were going to go to that and then opted not to and lucked out right where we were standing. I probably wouldn't do it again. It was hotter than hell, humid as hell, and but worth every hour that we spent down there for those 2 days. So quite a celebration, and I highly recommend it. If you've never done it, put it on your bucket list and go down and catch the 4th of July celebration in the Washington, D.C., and take a bunch of tours when you're down there. You can get, the Congress is open. You can go in and take a tour of Congress. You can go to the White House. Usually it's open. We were not allowed to go into the White House tour. The administration at that particular time, which was the 45th administration, did not allow anybody from Massachusetts into the White House tour. That's a story for another time. But yeah, our congressman, you have to go to get into the White House. You have to go to your congressman. And we were informed that they would put it in, but we most likely would be denied because one of our congressmen in Massachusetts was not a fan of President number 45. So we were not allowed to go to the White House. So anyway, we got to see it. We just couldn't go inside. But that was the 4th of July. So great time of year. Looking forward to 2022 when hopefully everything is back to its original state. And we get to enjoy it with our family again. I think I might have a barbecue just because we haven't done anything like that for many, many years. And you'll be back to American Village. And I tell you, come up here one of the 4th of Julys when you're not doing the Village, and I'll make a trip down there and check out the American Village 4th of July or Memorial Day or any of those special things. So with that said, we've come to the end of this episode on this very special day, the Day of Independence. If anyone listening would like to be a part of our show or know somebody that might be a great guest, you can reach out to us at our email address. It's anothersundaybroadcast@gmail.com. We'd be happy to have you on our show. Talk about anything that you have on your mind. We're always looking for interesting guests, and it's an open forum here at the old podcast. Eric, I will give you the... one other thing to our listeners around the United States and around the world, too, as you celebrate the 4th of July here and wherever you may be. Please be safe, and we'll see you next week. Eric, final word to you, sir.
Happy 4th of July, and roll with the changes.
It's Another Sunday Podcast. It's produced by Erich and Gerry. Music is composed by Tom Blaze. Music also written by Tom Blaze. Check out his YouTube channel at Tom Blaze. That's going to do it for another edition of It's Another Sunday Podcast. Happy 4th of July. Be safe, and thanks for listening.